Good morning, everyone. Oh, let's try again. Good morning, everyone. Oh, there's the group that's here for the conference. Great. You know, I said this morning to my husband, I was on the phone with him, I said, I'm just speaking for about 10, 15 minutes, and then the program just moves forward for 4 days. So it's going to be pretty easy for 10 minutes to hold their attention, right? And he said, huh? So there's my start. I really want to spend time just to talk about two things with you. So the first is, we'll get the energy level raised up in the room here a little bit. I'd like to find out who's here and who's attending the conference. So we'll start with our educators, our teachers. So if you're a teacher, how about standing up and let's see who's in the room. Where's our teachers? Very nice, very nice. We've got a lot of teachers here. Okay, great. Have a seat. If you're a teacher, and you've been teaching more than 20 years, and you're willing to admit that, how about you stand up? Let's see where our veterans are. All right. There you go. Thank you. I'll tell you, one of the things that I've really come to learn over the years is that when we have our veteran staff, they energize our young staff, and they help be mentors, and they help share the great things. There's nothing like a veteran educator lit by research and ready to keep doing well by children. How about the new educators? Who has 1 or 2 years, or maybe you got hired this summer? How about you stand if you're young? All right. Oh, okay. Welcome. Nothing better than welcoming new young educators to the field, so we're glad that you're here. How about everyone who's a related service worker, occupational therapist, physical therapist, speech therapist, behavior specialist, school psychologist? Where are those folks? Let's see you. Nice. All right, very good. And then a group, and I know I'm going to miss some, but this group is really critically important as our partners. Where are our folks who are here as the parent of a child with autism or a disability? So you're here in your role as parent. Great. Well, we're really happy to see parents here, because one of the things we know is that when you think about all the folks who just stood up, whether you were a teacher, a related service worker, an agency that supports students, a parent, the strength of really finding the best of what we have in education is when that diverse group is together working. We know that the one thing that I've come to learn, I'll tell you as a young administrator, I was an administrator in a school district for about 10 years. And one of the things is, I think as a young administrator, I didn't realize the value maybe of what parents brought to the table. I always valued it, and I'm a parent myself, but I don't know that I valued it as much until I became an administrator after 2 years and 3 years. And I realized that parents really know their child the best. And that's the piece they can bring to the table. And so often we tend to think about this one's going to look at this perspective and this one's going to look at a child from this perspective. But we're really all headed for the same way, that we want to see children be successful. So I would encourage you, I'll sort of throw the gauntlet and challenge that we tend to, when we go to conferences, to hang out with the folks that are our friends. Teachers hang out with teachers and parents hang out with parents, and that's a good thing because that's good networking and that's great sharing. But I'll challenge you to make 3 new friends during the course of this week that are maybe in a different role than the role that you bring to the table. Second thing that I want to mention to you, and I sort of alluded to this, that I've been around for a little while, and so those of you that were that veteran group that stood up, you'll understand this. When I first started teaching, my blouses had really big shoulder pads, and my hair was bigger than my shoulder pads. A can of Aquanet was my best friend, so you know what I'm talking about. In the late 80s and the early 90s, there was a wonderful book that came out, and it was called Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Has anyone heard of that book? It was hugely popular. It was wildly popular that every teacher had a poster on their wall. It was a white poster with a big red apple on the background, and it listed these wonderful things like hold hands when you cross the street and eat warm cookies and take naps in the afternoon. I'll pause on that because my boss is in the room. I don't nap in the afternoon. I really don't. But they had all these great insights about what makes a wonderful world. And, you know, there's a phrase that was in that book that has resonated with me my entire career. And you probably know the saying from when you were a child, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." But in this book, Robert Fulghum, who's the author, he changed that phrase, and he said, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will break our hearts." And that phrase, for whatever reason, always stayed with me. And one of the things that I'm really happy to announce here at this conference is we have a State Board of Education. And a few weeks ago, our State Board of Education met, and it's been about a 7-8 month journey with them in working through what we call our special ed regulations. You'll hear them referred to as Chapter 14 sometimes. They help us implement what the IDEA disabilities federal law is all about. And what the State Board did is they have removed the terminology of mental retardation from every piece of state promulgated forms, documents, parent letters, evaluation reports. That word will no longer be used in Pennsylvania. And I think that's pretty significant because I think those words, that terminology is so archaic that it really sets a low expectation, doesn't it? And there isn't anyone in here who could tell me there's anything positive related to that type of wording. So we'll be having the term intellectual disabilities as its replacement. And you'll notice that all the documents that you'll use going forward with your child, IEPs and evaluation reports will reflect that language. And the reason we feel so strongly is not only is the terminology poor and I think it's hurtful language, is that it really helps changing the terminology so that we can set our expectations at a high level for all of our students. And that's a child whether they have multiple disabilities, whether they have autism, whether they have a learning disability, and all of our 12 categories that we have here in Pennsylvania. We want to presume a competence so that students have access to rigorous education. Angela mentioned it right in her first opening comment, is that we want students having the opportunity for STEM type of activities, for rigorous academic courses, for being college bound, maybe technical school bound. We're using the phrase college, career, and community ready for our students with disabilities. For some students, college will be the route they'll go. But we know that apprenticeships and internships and technical schools can be fantastic avenues for our students as well. And some students will go right into the workforce, and that's okay too. But we also want our students to be able to know that when they graduate from high school, they're part of a community. So it's career, college, and community ready. So that's part of our mission as the Bureau of Special Education, and you'll see many trainings offered through the patent system and through our intermediate units that are emphasizing that for our children. So I hope that you'll have a chance to network, to be with each other, to share ideas. There's a fantastic lineup of speakers. I wish my schedule would let me stay all 4 days, but it won't. But the instructional strategies and the research-based and evidence-based practices that are here are going to be fantastic. So enjoy the conference this week and meet new friends and share. Okay? Have a great conference. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce to you the next speaker. And our Deputy Secretary is going to give some opening remarks. And, you know, I could give you his resume, his credentials, his work in schools, being a principal and assistant superintendent and all of those, but this seems to be neither the time nor place. I think what we'll do is we'll tell you just a little bit about him rather than read the resume. Here's a speech pattern that I've picked up on that I hear the deputy say all the time around the department. Whenever we're discussing activities that are going on in the schools or working with parents, he tends to say, well, what we want students to be able to do, what we want students to have great outcomes, we want to engage our students, we want to make sure that we're providing for our students. That phrase becomes repetitive through so many things we do. And I think that's one of the really nice changes that we've seen under Secretary Rivera during these few years, is that we have a real child, student-focused vision for what we want to see happen in our Pennsylvania schools. That comes under the leadership of the Deputy Secretary, who makes sure that that's a piece of everything we do, whether it's our Bureau, the Bureau of Special Ed, the Bureau of Career and Technology, the Bureau of Curriculum and Assessment. It's a very child-centered type of approach, and we're really happy that under his leadership we can continue towards that vision. So I won't say too much more. I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself when he's up, but please help me give a very warm welcome to our Deputy Secretary, Matthew Stem.
Well, good morning. And Ann, thank you for the introduction. It truly is, we count it a privilege. You know, Ann had kindly shared the way that we try and lead and the culture that we're trying to cultivate at the Department of Education. And as Ann shared, it really reflects leadership from the top level. And you know, our Secretary Rivera, is absolutely passionate about student outcomes and about building a team of folks who are educators, who are parents, and who have experienced what it's like to work directly with students and families, so that when we lead at a policy level and engage those that create statutes and those that craft regulations, that we can inform and we can bring that perspective. And so that can't happen, again, without clear leadership from the top, and also with those that work with us helping to cultivate that culture. So my name is Matthew Stem. I'm Deputy Secretary for the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, and it's an absolute privilege to be here with you again this year. This is the third year that I'm able to join you for the conference, and again, it's truly an honor to be here. Although they're unable to join, I do want to bring regards and greetings from Governor Tom Wolf and from Secretary Rivera, who are very passionate about not only student outcomes, but really in particular the great work that's happening here with students with disabilities broadly, and more specifically students with autism. When we develop our departmental goals and we work with educators across the Commonwealth, we focus on opportunities, pathways, and initiatives that support equity and help improve the quality of education for students. Equity is among our three key themes when we talk about culture. It's about transparency, it's about equity, and it's about innovation. And I know we shared a little bit about that when I was here with you last year. And so what does equity mean to the Wolf administration? It means working every day to ensure that Pennsylvania students, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, or their zip code, or abilities for that matter, are provided with meaningful opportunities to learn and grow at school, and they graduate, as Ann said, college, career, and community ready. So recently, as you just heard, at the request of the administration, the State Board of Education recently updated Pennsylvania's special education regulations to replace the term mental retardation with intellectual disability. And as Ann so eloquently shared, words matter. And one of the things that I've learned, having been an educator for over 22 years before coming to the Department of Education, I've spent the last 3 years learning about a different kind of world, that those of us who are educators, and I still consider myself an educator, having been a teacher, principal, and assistant superintendent in a few districts, those of us that educators don't often dabble in that world of statute and regulations. But when the state board passes regulations that change terminologies that matter, they don't do that without having heard from parents, teachers, and educators. And if you recall, last year we were together and we talked about how this is a movement, and we're shaping a movement at a community level, at a state level, and even at an event like this at an international level. But part of that means your voices are being heard, and when we have wins for students like we did in those regulatory changes, that's not the Department of Education that's crafting those wins. It's the state board who hears from all of you, and your lawmakers that hear from all of you, that result in that change. So I want to thank all of you for being a part of that solution and advocating for something that was long overdue. Please give yourselves a round of applause for that. So your participation here at the National Autism Conference plays a critical role in our collaborative work. As you look around you, there are more than 1,000. So in my notes, transparently, I have more than 1,000 in attendance. I realize that we're now, I believe, are somewhere closer to 1,400 that are in attendance. I'm looking at a few head nods, Mike, and so 1,400 are out this year for our annual Autism Conference. That is just absolutely phenomenal. And I will tell you, as Deputy Secretary, so I oversee all programs K-12 across the Commonwealth, and I'm at all sorts of conferences throughout the year. Rest assured that this is a factual statement that this is among the absolute highlights of all the conferences, if not the highlight of the conferences that we hold, because of the impact that it's having. I think what differentiates this from our other great work is the global impact that we're having here. And so there are 90 sessions that are being offered at the conference, and they relate primarily to the focuses around effective instruction, social skills, transition to work, post-secondary educational programs. And these sessions offer opportunities for you to engage with your peers from across the world while gaining comprehensive and evidence-based information that can help you develop programming and supports for students with autism spectrum disorders. In addition to all of you, there are students at this conference, and these students are already, as we sit here, engaging in educational activities that are being coordinated to help them grow and develop their STEM skills, something that I know Governor Wolf and the Department of Education support and advocate for across the Commonwealth. And if you recall last year, that was one of the themes that we talked about, was how do we move next level, and where are we going from here in this continuum of work around supporting students with autism. And what we're doing in STEM is cutting edge, and I would like to think, and I believe, that we have moved the needle just as we said we would when we were together last year in terms of creating and providing opportunities, all sorts of opportunities, but particularly those in STEM for students with autism. And when I think about the opportunities for students, I have to say somewhat selfishly that one of the highlights and one of the reasons this is one of my favorite conferences to attend is actually getting to spend time with the students. And so after I get done speaking, hopefully for all of us very soon, we're going to start with a student. We're going to hear a young man named Andy, who you're going to love hearing and play both piano and the trumpet. And then I get to shoot around and see what's happening with students in all the other programs that are going on here. And it's truly a highlight for me, one of which is the Children's Institute, which provides students with enriching educational experiences, and that's being coordinated by Patton and the Central Intermediate Unit. And this institute provides parents with an opportunity, many of you parents who just stood, the opportunity to be here and attend conference sessions while your children enjoy a range of enriching activities. I know that each of the children develop and perform a drama, and that's certainly one of the highlights of the event. And I really appreciate those individuals at Central Intermediate Unit who are providing those enriching activities so parents can be here, can relax, and can focus on building relationships and learning new things that you're going to take back and share. For context, there are currently more than 283,000 students who receive special education services in Pennsylvania, and 30,000 of those students are identified as having autism, which is approximately 10% of the special education population of our school-age students. And that's a number, if you'll recall, that continues to grow not only in Pennsylvania but nationally and internationally as well. And so it underscores the sense of urgency. While we're here to celebrate this week and over the next several days, and while even in my remarks we're going to celebrate some of the things we accomplish, make no bones about it. We're here because there's much that needs to be done, and as needs continue to grow, it's our responsibility collectively to make sure that we're doing everything we can to meet those needs. So, in order to be college, career, and community ready by their high school graduation, students need access to quality academics, career activities, STEM activities, and extracurricular activities. And this conference offers several sessions dedicated to discussions on graduation and how all of us together can ensure students with autism get and stay on track to graduate and are prepared for life after high school. In addition, a session is going to be held later this week that's dedicated to discussing how well our pilot project is working to increase graduation rates for students with disabilities. You may already know that college campuses are seeing an increase in the number of students with autism, which is not surprising and follows trends. And Pennsylvania has more programs, post-secondary programs for students on the spectrum than any other state. And we plan to continue to expand those opportunities in the future. Our Patents Achieve project is one example of a project that's making a difference for students with disabilities. Edinburgh, IUP, Westchester, and Kutztown are partnering with local school districts to learn more about the supports and services that can help and prepare and lead students with autism to success in college. And you know, this is when we listen to parents, so I am not the Deputy Secretary for Post-Secondary and Higher Education, but we do work very closely. And it's one of the things Secretary Rivera directs us. He really wants to see education in Pennsylvania as a seamless transition from pre-K all the way up to post-secondary and beyond. And in my conversations with our friends in post-secondary, we hear frequently from both students and parents how few supports there are, and how services are lost when students transition from a K-12 environment to post-secondary. So we're in Pennsylvania, although we're leading the way, that's just a handful of universities that we've named, and we hope through events like this we're going to create the buzz that gets more and more of our college and university partners to take this matter to heart and continue to put the programming, supports, and services in place that our students so desperately need. And so when you think about, I'm so sorry, stepping back. So a panel of college students is going to share how this pilot project helped them not only get into college, but become successful college students. So we're going to hear from students themselves, college students, how this pilot project across those schools has had an impact on them. And I think that's going to be tremendously valuable. And much of this work could not be accomplished without our patent system. And the team at Patent provides a wide range of training and technical supports to school districts throughout the Commonwealth, as well as intermediate units, parents directly, and in fact, Patent consultants are providing on-site focused training at more than 560 sites across the Commonwealth, and that's just in the prior year alone. Their model system of support has resulted in outcomes that include significant gains which are noted during site reviews that track the implementation of evidence-based practices. And data supports to speak to some of these successes. I'm going to share just a few data points. Patent's Autism Initiative will provide support to about 600 classrooms serving students with autism in the 2018-19 school year. During the 2017-18 school year, approximately 550 classes were provided with a consultation. Last school year, a site review process was completed in all sites participating in Patent's efforts. The site review is a 61-item scale documenting evidence of effective practice. And preliminary data suggests a change in the mean 2000, period. In the mean 2007 fall site review, the criteria was at 54% implemented to a mean of 79% of criteria implemented for the spring 2018 review. So those are the types of increases that we're seeing and we're able to quantify as a result of the team's efforts. And during the 2016-17 school year, public school staff accumulated the following data for a sample of 257 classes. 10,067 skill tracking sheets, 10,512 graphs, 1,678 students served, a mean of 6 skill tracking sheets per student, a mean of 6.3 graphs per student, a mean of 39 skill tracking sheets per class, and a mean of 41 graphs per class. And so this is the data that's guiding programming. And I share those numbers to remind ourselves that this is scientifically based research that's guiding our efforts. We're not being guided purely by intuition and experience, but by research and scientifically based practices. And we're using the data that comes from those to continue to hone what we do in a very thoughtful and controlled and statistically valid and reliable way. And then finally, just to quickly highlight other competency-based trainings that have occurred with over 1,873 attending trainings and sessions on everything from intensive skill training and applied behavior analysis for teams serving students with autism, intermediate and advanced protocols for students with autism, and establishing basic skill sets for students with autism. So please join me in recognizing and thanking the Patton team for the great work that they do, which includes the coordination of this conference. Let's give a big round of applause to the Patton team. So I know I'm going a little long. Thank you for bearing with me. Just a few other thoughts. You know, throughout this conference, one of the other highlights is hearing success stories. These stories offer insights of the impact that our efforts are having. And, you know, I'll briefly share one success story, and I think this is just going to kick off the dozens and dozens of stories you're going to hear throughout this week. But there's one of our school districts in south central Pennsylvania. There's a secondary student who had previously required very, very intensive behavioral support. And is now acquiring practical job skills and is able to participate in out-of-school employment training because of a successful collaboration. And that's one of our key themes here, right? A successful collaboration between the district and his parents. The student learned critical social communication skills through a well-sequenced instructional program focused on positive outcomes. And central to this effort was teaching the student to make a request. So you look at how the focus on teaching a student to make requests plays itself out into eventually moving all the way into employability skills. And the school district participated in the Patton Autism Initiative and developed the evidence-based practices across grade levels. And as a result, at a broader scale, beyond just this particular student, the district has been able to keep many of their students in their home schools where previously many of these students would have been placed in more restrictive settings. And that's just one example of one district, God bless you, one district in South Central PA of our 500 districts. And you're going to hear more of that throughout this week. And so how do we know that the system of support and training that we're engaged in is successful? It's been replicated in several states as well as internationally. The Autism Initiative model of training school staff was shared with individuals involved in the education of children with autism in Missouri, New Hampshire, Florida, Indiana, and Puerto Rico. And it has also been shared in Poland, China, the Czech Republic, Italy, Slovakia, and the Dominican Republic. So when I spoke earlier today, what sets this conference apart? I can tell you confidently that this is this is the only conference that we lead directly that has this level of a global impact, because what we're doing here in Pennsylvania is cutting edge, and more importantly is demonstrating that it works, and we're starting to see that play out in student outcomes. So I encourage you throughout this week to share your best practices and evidence-based approaches with your peers. Later this year, the department is going to release its long-awaited Future Ready PA Index. And for those of you that are educators in the room, you certainly know about this, and for parents, you may have heard. But we're reimagining the way that we communicate student and school success in Pennsylvania across a wide range of indicators and a more holistic set of indicators than we've measured in the past, because we know that our students are more than just one single point-in-time test scores. And so as we get ready to release and launch our Future Ready PA Index this fall, there's a notable shift in how we're going to be reporting student success. And for the first time in Pennsylvania, we're going to be disaggregating every one of our indicators at a subgroup level, including students with IEPs. So for the first time, when we go to take a look at what's happening at a school, not only are we going to be looking at the all students and have one data point, but you'll be able to click on every data point for every school and see a breakdown of not only how our schools are serving all students, but how our schools are serving students across racial groups, students with that are English learners, and students with IEPs. And we believe by creating a system with that level of transparency, we're going to empower all of you and our communities to ask the kind of questions, as Ann said before, and engage in those dialogues where parents are able to ask informed questions about student performance and help be a part of continuing to close the gaps that still exist across the Commonwealth. And so we couldn't be more excited about that launch, and please watch for that in the fall. And there's more information on PDE's website if you're interested in learning more about the Future Ready PA Index. So this year's conference represents one aspect of our coordinated system of supports. I'd be remiss if I didn't share one final piece of information. In June, Pennsylvania received its determination on its determination around meeting Part B of IDEA and more or less what Pennsylvania's level of compliance is with IDEA B requirements. And I'm very pleased to share that once again, I believe we're up to either 9 out of 10 years or 10 out of 11 years. Pennsylvania has fully met, federal OSEP has determined that Pennsylvania has fully met its requirements vis-a-vis IDEA-B, and we're the only large state in the country to have that level of success. And that wouldn't happen not only without the leadership of the individuals at Patton that we clapped for earlier, but with the leadership of those folks on our team at PDE and the Bureau of Special Education, Ann and her team, as well again as Angela and her teams across the Pattons and across all of the supports around our 29 intermediate units that come together, the Bureau of Special Education, our intermediate units, and our Pattons, to create a system where we have that level of success and that level of implementation. So join me in giving a round of applause for our Bureau of Special Education and our IUs as well. So, in closing, culture shifts through synergy, and this is synergy right here. This is the type of place, our goal in pulling everyone together is to create networks that create change. And so we're trusting that while you're here and while you're learning and gaining new information, that you're connecting, you're sharing your number, you're sharing your email, you're sharing access to the Twitter feed where you're tweeting out all the exciting things that are happening, including at this conference. And I want to, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for your commitment to what we're doing here in Pennsylvania and making an impact on students across not only the state of Pennsylvania, but across the nation and the world. Truly, together, we're doing great things, and I challenge us to continue to get better. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Synergy, indeed it is. What an overwhelming sight to see the amount of people here who care so much and are committed to changing lives of children, individuals with autism, their families, our community as a whole. It is such an honor to be here with so many people who choose to come to this conference to learn to help these children become the best they can be rather than being at the beach. That is just outstandingly admirable. I am beyond honored to actually welcome the Milston family today and our next performer, Andy Milston, and be able to introduce him to you. You are in for a delightful treat as we move forward to listen to Andy play a couple of instruments today because he's extremely talented. I actually want to extend a warm welcome to his parents, Craig and Amy Milston, and his very amazing sister, Rachel, and a special welcome to Andy for all of the efforts he's put forth to be here and to entertain us. It was an absolute honor for me to meet Andy 6 years ago and have this beautiful relationship with him and see him grow into the young man he is today. Andy is here today and joins us as a result of the extraneous efforts of his parents, teachers, staff members who, just like you, cared enough to do the right thing for him, and most importantly, because of the perseverance, hard work, and steadfast focus of Andy and all of his great talent. So I'm not going to take much time because I want to welcome Craig and Amy Milton, who are going to come up here and give you a little bit of information on their son, Andy. So please join me in welcoming Craig and Amy Milton.
Hello, and thank you so much, Amiris. We're so honored to be here today, and it's a thrilling thing for us, and especially for Andy. Our son Andy was diagnosed with autism 11 years ago at age 3. Had we had any awareness of the signs of autism, we probably could have known much earlier. Years of effective interventions and hard work have helped with his speech-language delay and many other challenges that he faced. As the school years went by, we learned more about the myriad learning difficulties he has, and we've worked on ways to overcome them. When Andy came to us in 4th grade and said that he wanted to play a musical instrument, we were skeptical. The idea that he could read a note on the page, know what it meant, coordinate his fingers and his mouth to play the note, and then do that again and again quickly enough to make music seemed like too tall of an order for him. We steered him to the trumpet because it only had 3 vowels, and we thought that was his best chance for success. It was slow going in the beginning, but with the help of the terrific music department at Central York School District, he got it. He was able to play the trumpet in his 4th grade band concert, and it was cause for great celebration. He played in the band throughout elementary school, and that was one of his greatest joys and accomplishments. In between 6th and 7th grades, pretty much out of the blue, something clicked, and he got really good at it. He decided that he wanted to play in the York Junior Symphony, and he set his laser-guided focus on accomplishing that, and he auditioned, and he made it, and he played with the symphony this past year. Then he was named the first chair trumpet in his middle school band. And he was named to the York County Honors Band. Next year, he has his sights set on the York Youth Symphony and the District Band.
Now I get to talk. Andy has a younger sister, Rachel, who is here with us today to support Andy as she has her entire life. About 3 years ago, Rachel expressed a desire to play the piano. Andy used to play around on her keyboard every once in a while, using one finger to tap out Star Wars tunes and other songs by one of his favorite composers, John Williams. We took Andy to a special John Williams performance by the York Symphony, and Andy just loved it. He wanted to go to the next symphony show when they were playing Mozart and Beethoven and Haydn, and he loved that too. He grew restless with his one-handed playing, so we watched a few YouTube videos, and all of a sudden he was playing Mozart and Beethoven, by ear, with both hands. Then he started getting really good at that, and we thought, maybe we need to get this kid some lessons. He had his first piano lesson a little more than 1 year ago. Barely 6 months after he started taking lessons, he was playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata in a special recital at York College. He is now part of the YC Prep program at York College, where he takes trumpet, piano, and music composition lessons. He continues to learn and improve at a rapid rate, and recently was invited to play at an autism awareness concert at Monmouth University. Although this is by far the biggest audience for which he's ever played, and the biggest audience in front of which I've ever spoken. Thank you. He loves music more than anything, and he spends all of his free time either playing music, listening to music, or reading the full musical scores to the world's greatest symphonies. As Andy plays his trumpet for you today, you should know that this is a kid who wasn't able to blow out the candles on a birthday cake until he was about 7 years old because he didn't know how to make his mouth into the right shape. As he plays the piano for you, you should know that we had to button the shirt he's wearing, and we'll have to help him unbutton it later because he still struggles with both. When we watch his fingers fly across the keys, we still can't believe what we're seeing. We hope you enjoy the performance. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, our son Andy.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's just an honor to be performing in front of all of you. Thank you. So I'll be performing 5 selections for you guys today, and 1 on the trumpet. So the first selection of the program is Chopin's Waltz, number 19 in A minor, Opus Posthumus. The waltz was written sometime between 1843 and 1848, but was not published until 1860, 11 years after the composer's death. Beethoven's Piano Sonata number 8 in C minor, Opus 13, commonly known as Sonata Pathétique, was written in 1798 when the composer was 27 years old, and was published in 1799. I will be playing the second movement, Adagio Cantabile in A-flat major. When we get to this point of the program, we'll be switching gears to a nice short trumpet solo. J.L. Small wrote a book consisting of 27 melodious and rhythmical exercises for advanced trumpet players. I will be playing the melodious and beautiful 6th etude. This etude has a couple different moods in it that you'll love it. It's just a really nice etude. The next selection is a very beautiful piece by Billy Joel called Nocturne. This tune appears in the 1971 album Cold Spring Harbor, and also on the 2011 reissue of the 1973 album Piano Man. And to close the performance, I will play the energetic and fast Solfeggiatos in C minor, written by the son of the famous Johann Sebastian Bach, CPE Bach, or Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, written in the year 1766. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Beethoven would kill me. The microphone. It's already going to be heard. It's already going to be heard.
guess one thing to say, wow, wow, and wow. As I do this, because I had prepared this and I felt so bad that I totally forgot about it, but, you know, his parents were kind enough to send some pictures. I can't get out of here because the mouse doesn't work, so maybe not. No, mouse is not working. Don't know what's happening. Okay, sorry. Had a little treat for you, but I guess that's not happening. Actually, I'll play it while we're in between sessions. So thank you very much, Andy Milton, for your incredible performance, for your hard work. For teaching us about perseverance, about how much it's worth to endure and keep your eye on the prize. That was absolutely amazing. I think he is your testimony and evidence of how important motivation is to get things to happen. Thank you very, very much. The code for this session is OUT456. Again, that's OUT 456. Mike Mikolos will now come up and introduce our opening keynote. Thank you, everyone.